Okay, this is English 201, week 14, part 4. So I just, this is a subject I think about a lot. So I was thinking about different ways of teaching it to students about why you should pay attention to how the thing is made and the relationship between the creator and the audience, not just the world of the story where you pretend the characters are real. Again, very important to pay attention to the world of the story and to pretend the characters are real. But also, you need to be able to remember that this is made by somebody, for somebody, and somebody made it for a reason, and people get different kinds of things out of it. So I thought I would teach this by showing you my favorite painting in the whole world. And the painting is by a guy named Magritte, who's a very important sort of surrealist painter from the 20th century, and this is a whole book of his that I have. Of Magritte paintings, and I'm a huge fan of Magritte, and he's amazing. The painting I'm going to show you, I think it's amazing. I think it's really neat, and you're going to see it, and you're going to think this is fucking stupid. But I'm going to show it to you anyway, and I'm going to talk about it for a little bit, because I think it makes an important point about the kinds of things we're doing in this class. So let's talk about it. Here is the painting. Boom. That is the painting. It looks like that. Underneath, it is a picture of a pipe, and underneath, in French, and some of you speak French, and you will know this. It's a pretty easy sentence to read if you speak French. This is not a complex French sentence. It says, "This is not a pipe." It's a picture of a pipe, and it says, "This is not a pipe." So, that's my favorite painting. It's amazing to me. It's really interesting to me. It's fun to think about. I think the first reaction people are going to have when they see this painting is to be like, that's just fucking stupid. It's a picture of a pipe, and then it says this is not a pipe, and that thing at the bottom is just wrong. It's just like, why is he like? And by the way, that's irony, right? You could start by saying that the first thing you could say about this painting, and yes, irony and metaphor exist in painting. Irony, metaphor, and themes are things in paintings also. You could start by pointing out the irony. At the bottom, it says this is not a pipe, and it very obviously is a pipe. How stupid are you? That's what a pipe looks like. This is easy. I will say though that it's a simple. Some people will look at this painting and see a very, very simple irony, right? That it says there's a picture of a pipe, and then it says this is not a pipe, and it obviously is, and that's a contrast because it is a pipe, and it says it's not a pipe, and that's the end of it. And so that's the kind of basic first response people have to this painting. But if that was all there was to it, I think it would be pretty stupid. I think that's pretty stupid to have a picture of something and say this is not the thing that it obviously is. That's dumb. But there's something more interesting here. Because most people roll their eyes and go, that's stupid. Why does it say this is not a pipe? It is a pipe. That's obvious. Until you start thinking about it a little bit. It's not a pipe. I mean, it is a pipe. It looks like a pipe. It's a very realistically drawn pipe, by the way. It's the kind of pipe that you would smoke. You see Sherlock Holmes smoking a pipe like that. It's very well painted. I mean, it looks realistic, right? It's not like a bad cartoon. He didn't do a bad job on it. It looks perfect. That is definitely a pipe you could put in your mouth and smoke. It looks very realistic. Except here's the problem with that pipe. Can you smoke it? Can you smoke it? This should be pretty easy. No, you can't. Why can't you smoke it? Because it's not really a pipe. It's a picture of a pipe, and there's a fucking difference. So, on the one hand, it obviously is a pipe. But the little label at the bottom says it's not, and that's irony, because it's contrast, because it is a pipe, and it says it's not a pipe, and that's contrast, so that's irony. But there's something more complex going on here, which is that it's not a real pipe, it's a picture of a pipe, and there's a difference between pipes and pictures of pipes. Now, that seems like a fucking stupid thing to say. Like, everybody knows a drawing and the thing that it's a drawing of are not the same thing. That's very easy. I mean, you know there are apples in the world, but if you see a picture of an apple, you can't eat the picture. I mean, you can, but it won't give you any nutritional value. It's as obvious. We know they're different. That seems dumb. Except, think about how many people seem to forget the difference. In fact, you might have forgotten the difference. Most people forget the difference. How do you know? Because your first reaction to the painting was, that's stupid, it is a pipe. So even though you know better. Oh, right, it's a drawing of a pipe. It's not really a pipe. I know there's a difference between a real pipe and a drawing of a pipe. It's a painting. So I know there's a difference between a painting of a pipe and a real pipe. Blah. But you kind of don't know. I mean, it seems like you know, because you're like, oh yeah, I know the difference. I know the difference. But your first reaction to that painting is probably to say, of course it's a pipe. And then it says it's not a pipe, and then you're like, why does it say that? And then you're like, oh, right, because of course it's a drawing of a pipe and there's a difference. It seems stupid. But consider for a second the children's books. A is for apple. B is for bear. C is for cat. D is for dog. E is for elephant. I have obviously you guys know by now my name is Jeff Clock, and Jeff is spelled with a G and Clock is spelled with a K. So I got my little niece, which is very confusing letters for both of my names to start with. So I got my little niece this little book, this little children's book that teaches the alphabet, but it's like a really mean book because it's called P is for pterodactyl. And so it's like an alphabet book, but all the words that go with the alphabet letters are like not what you think they would be. So it's like T is for tsunami. A tsunami washed away Tchaikovsky's tchotchkes, because Tchaikovsky and tchotchke and tsunami all start with the letter T, but it doesn't sound like they would, just like you think Jeff would start with a J and not a G, and Clock would start with a C and not a K. So it's kind of a funny book. But the point is that we teach children things based on pictures in books. A is for apple, B is for bear, C is for cat, D is for dog, E is for elephant, F is for fox. But it's not actually an apple. It's not really a bear. It's not actually a cat. It's not really a dog. It's not an elephant. It's not a fox. They're just pictures. But a huge amount of human education is based on this thing where we show you a picture and then we tell you what it is, and your brain gets like designed to forget that the picture of the thing is not the thing. So I guess the point that I would want to make about this painting, which is a painting of a pipe that says this is not a pipe, I guess the point I would make about the painting is that when you watch a movie, usually you lose track of time. If it's a really good movie, you'll get like sucked in the movie and you feel like it's real the whole time, and you're just in that world. The movie usually doesn't stop to remind you, hey, you're watching a movie. But the Tempest and Othello are like that, except the Tempest kind of does stop to remind you you're watching a play. That final speech, Prospero comes right out to the audience and talks to them about how he can see that there's an audience there. And he has these metaphors for theater that make it seem like he's aware of the audience. This painting is sort of like the final speech in The Tempest, because it reminds the audience that they're looking at a painting. Normally, when you think about paintings, they're designed, a painting is a window onto another world, and I can see a little picture onto whatever world the person painted. But this painting doesn't work like that. It's not a picture into another world. You can imagine a painting of a pipe on a table. That would be a picture, a little window into another world, where it looks like I'm looking through a window and I can see a pipe on the table. But this, because it has the words at the bottom, this is not a pipe. And the pipe is just like floating, right? It's not on a table, it's not anywhere. It's just sort of floating in the air. And then there are words on the painting. It's a way of reminding you that, by the way, this is not a real thing, it's just a painting. Which seems like a stupid point to make, except everybody that watches movies forgets that someone's making them and then there's an audience in the room. They always think about it like they're real people. And because of that, that's how they miss things like metaphor and irony and, most importantly, theme. And what Magritte does with this painting is he kind of reminds you what you're doing. He's like, hey, don't forget you're there, standing in front of the painting, looking at this pipe, which is not a pipe, but you sort of pretend it's a pipe or you forget it's not a real pipe. He's reminding you of your existence, which is a strange thing when we live in a culture where movies and TV shows like to help us forget that we are in this world and help us to imagine we live in the Marvel universe. What Magritte's painting does is it serves to remind you, hey, you're in an art museum looking at a painting. Don't forget somebody made this thing, and there's ideas and metaphors. And honestly, this painting is a metaphor. It's a metaphor for all of the ways in which we learn through books about things that aren't quite real. So like Othello's situation is very sad and it makes me cry, but it's also worth remembering Othello's not a real person. He was made up by somebody, and he's made of words, and Shakespeare wrote them, and and the play he's in contains ideas for me, the audience. So the painting by Magritte has irony in it, but it also serves as a kind of metaphor for the way art works generally, which is it often encourages us to forget that it's fake. And this painting reminds us that it's fake by putting the little warning at the bottom: this is not a pipe.